Okay, let's begin today's deep dive. We're starting somewhere. Well, somewhere very quiet. Not with headlines, not with complex data, but with stillness. The kind you find in a really ordinary, maybe easily overlooked moment. Imagine, if you will, just a simple cup of tea. Perhaps it's sitting on your desk right now. You poured it, let's say, maybe an hour ago. There was intent there, wasn't there? It was steaming, fragrant, maybe this beautiful golden color, perhaps green, promising warmth, right? A little pause in the day, it felt like. Oh, like a small, perfect thing.
And now, it just sits, still there, maybe full, maybe half drunk. It's reached, you could say, a kind of equilibrium with the room. It's cooled down.
Yeah, the steam is gone. That visual sign of its, its readiness, its usefulness, vanished. The surface, completely calm, like a little pond reflecting the light, no movement. And the smell, that initial strong fragrance, has faded too. It's quieter now, maybe a bit earthy. And the simple truth is, well, it's cold.
And for us, for our modern way of thinking, the part of us that always wants efficiency, wants to maximize everything, that cold cup feels like a small failure, doesn't it? A tiny symbol of something gone wrong.
Oh, absolutely. You look at it, and that little voice pipes up inside. Ah, missed it. Perfect moment passed. Should have drunk it sooner, should have focused. Wasted. That little sigh. It's actually, when you think about it, quite a big statement about how we view time itself.
And right there, that specific feeling, that sense of being too late, that's precisely where a different kind of awareness might begin. In some traditions, contemplative practices, nothing is truly wasted. Not silence, not waiting, not even what seems to be too late. So the cooled tea, it's not really an ending. It could be seen as, well, an invitation, a beginning even.
A beginning. How? How can it be a beginning if the ideal moment, the heat, is gone? What's left besides, cold liquid and maybe a bit of regret?
It's an invitation. Think of the cooled tea as a kind of koan, those paradoxical Zen puzzles, but served in a cup. If the heat was about urgency, about the ideal present, then the coolness perhaps is about surrender to the actual present, the one that is. It sort of poses these quiet questions, doesn't it? Questions that cut through that failure story, like, what does patience truly taste like? Maybe. Yeah. When does presence really start? Is it only when the steam is rising? Or can it begin after the steam has completely gone?
That reframing feels quite necessary, especially now. We're so obsessed with timing, aren't we? It's like this tyranny of the immediate. Always feeling chase. Gotta seize the day, grab the opportunity right now before the market changes, before the chance disappears, before it's too late. So when we rush, we gulp down our lives while they're supposedly hot, often just out of fear. Fear of missing that perfect window.
And that rush, it leads straight into the paradox we need to explore here. In scrambling so hard to catch the moment, we actually miss it completely. We gulp the tea or the conversation or whatever it is. But our mind is already halfway down the road planning the next thing. Physically present, yes, lips on the cup. But our attention elsewhere. So the warmth just slips away, and we still feel unsatisfied. The tea, in a way, remains untouched by real awareness.
Let's unpack that timing paradox a bit more. It really does seem to drive so much anxiety. We operate as if time is this finite resource, something you have to grab and hoard before it vanishes.
Exactly. We feel this pressure to grasp the moment before it passes, but the moment is always passing. That's its nature. It can't be held. Trying to hold on to now is like trying to cup water in your fist, isn't it? Squeeze harder and it just slips out faster. The instant you try to pin presence down to fix it, document it, make it stay, it's gone.
But then, the flip side of that, which you mentioned, is kind of startling. If it's always passing, then it's also somehow always here.
Precisely. That's the Zen logic of it, perhaps. If you stop wrestling with the moment, stop chasing its tail, you realize, well, where else could it possibly be? It comes back fully the moment you give up trying to possess it. It's a shift, really, from seeing time as a narrow track you're racing along to seeing it as maybe a wide open field.
I get that intellectually, I think. But how does something as simple, as inanimate as this cup of tea teach that?
Yeah.
How does it show the difference between just rushing through and, well, deeply participating? We're so used to just using things up.
Let's picture the monk, perhaps, or just a student of awareness in a quiet space. Dawn, maybe. The pouring starts with intention, yes. Water, leaf, vessel, and maybe there's a small bow, not to the hot tea they expect, but to the act itself, the pouring. Then they sit. They don't immediately snatch up the cup. They sit and wait. Maybe watch the steam curl and fade.
So they're not impatiently waiting for the right temperature or rushing before it gets too cold.
No, it seems they are simply with it. As it changes, the tea cools, wind might move outside, light shifts. The temperature is just one quality, you see. For this way of seeing, the tea is never wrong, it's just changing. Hot, warm, cool, cold, it's always there, available for attention. And that sustained, gentle watching without demanding anything from it, that's deep participation. Very different from just zoning out, from passivity.
Okay, but that requires a big internal shift, surely. If I were sitting there, my mind would be yelling, drink it, quick, it's getting cold, wasting the flavor.
Yeah.
How do you quiet that ingrained urge to optimize even in moments of quiet?
Ugh, that internal yelling, that's often the voice of the ego, isn't it? The part that gets very nervous when its plans, its script gets interrupted. Drinking hot tea actually requires a certain kind of sharp awareness. You have to be careful, don't burn your tongue, there's an alertness needed. But sitting with cooled tea, that asks for something different, something perhaps deeper, more restful in a way. It demands that you surrender the fantasy, that you control the past. You simply cannot uncool the tea. No amount of willpower or technology can rewind time to that perfect steaming moment. The ego wants to mourn or fix it or blame something, but the only real choice, the only path forward, is to meet the tea now, exactly as it is, without resentment, without bargaining.
So the real meeting point is that moment you realize the past is done and the present is just here, waiting to be noticed.
Exactly, that point of contact, that flicker of acceptance, that's where the possibility for real change begins.
Let's go into that acceptance more. If we finally give up the fight, except the tea is cool,
Yeah.
what happens when we actually taste it then? What's the experience?
Well, it's a radical shift in sensation, isn't it? That initial sharp hit of heat you might have braced for, it's just not there. What comes back isn't that high, bright note of the fresh brew. It's often quieter, more complex, sometimes earthier, as you said, maybe surprisingly sweet even. Or perhaps it carries a hint of melancholy, like a memory of its own warmth.
It speaks in a softer voice, like you said. What's that quieter voice telling us about presence itself?
Perhaps it's saying something like, I'm still here. Did you think I vanished just because I stopped steaming? Did you mistake my quietness for absence? Often, presence doesn't arrive with bells and whistles. It sometimes shows up quietly in the space after our frustration, between that sigh of, oh, I missed it, and the dawning thought, wait, what if I didn't miss anything essential?
So if our culture trains us to think the right moment is that peak moment, the steaming moment, this approach completely turns that upside down. If the right moment isn't a specific point on a timeline, what is it then? What defines it?
This is really the core insight, I think, the deepest point of this whole exploration. The right moment isn't a fixed location in time and space that you have to race towards or you'll miss it forever. It seems it's purely a quality of attention.
Quality of attention. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So the moment itself doesn't have to be perfect. Our gaze upon it just needs to be present, awake. The responsibility shifts then, away from controlling external conditions towards cultivating internal readiness.
Yes, exactly. And the implication there is quite profound, isn't it? It means you can be late for your own life, you can get distracted, delayed, be inefficient by normal standards, and still arrive fully. You can sit down with what feels too late and discover in that very act of sitting that it wasn't late at all. It was just waiting for a different kind of attention. Maybe slower, maybe more compassionate.
This really changes how we might think about, well, regrets, losses, things we dismiss because they're not fresh anymore, not new, past their prime.
Think about those things we carry. That conversation we didn't have when the time felt right, when the person was open, or a creative impulse we felt but ignored, and now it feels hard, silent. A dream we put off, maybe, until returning to it feels foolish or impractical, because circumstances changed. We tend to label these things as lost, done, history.
But following this logic, if they're like cooled pea, they haven't actually vanished. They're not waiting for us to fix them. You can't unsay things or turn back the clock. They're just waiting to be tasted again, maybe, in their current form, even if it's bittersweet.
Precisely. This way of seeing is fundamentally non-judgmental about time's passage. It doesn't chase some ideal of perfection. It tries to honor what is. You know the Japanese art of kintsugi, where they mend broken pottery with gold lacquer. The break isn't hidden, it's highlighted. It becomes part of the bowl's history, making it unique, maybe even more beautiful. The cooled tea is a bit like that cracked bowl. You don't discard it. In fact, its coolness demands something the hot tea didn't. That slow, patient stillness. It forces us to pause.
Yeah, it forces us to stop chasing that perfect image, doesn't it? The Instagram-worthy shot of the steaming cup, and that slowing down, That's the really hard part for most of us, I think.
It absolutely is. You know, the deepest koans, those Zen riddles meant to trip up the logical mind, they aren't just locked away in ancient scrolls, they hide in plain sight. In the mundane, we know the famous ones like, what was your original face before your parents were born? It feels very mystical, remote, separate from everyday life.
Yeah, definitely feels distant. Not something you ponder while doing the dishes.
But perhaps the real koan, the one that's truly alive for us now, is right there, in the kitchen, in that cooled cup you forgot about. Zen isn't just for monasteries. It lives in the gaps between emails, in the silence after an argument cools down, in the simple, quiet fact of that cup. These aren't really puzzles to solve. They're more like mirrors, reflecting our assumptions, our impatience.
Let's talk about that koan of attention itself.
Yeah.
You suggested a modern version. If no one drinks the tea, does it still cool? And, well, scientifically, obviously, yes. Physics doesn't care if we're watching. Heat dissipates.
Physics operates independently of our attention, yes. But the insight goes beyond thermodynamics, doesn't it? The tea cools anyway. But our relationship to that cooling, our story about it, our feeling about it, that changes utterly, fundamentally, only when we turn our awareness towards it, when we meet it. Until you consciously acknowledge the cooled cup, it exists in a kind of limbo state for you. It's neither truly lost nor truly honored, neither wasted nor fully met. It's just a physical process happening.
Right. So reality happens whether we're paying attention or not. But meaning seems to arise only in that conscious meeting, that interaction.
That seems to be the heart of it, the paradox of presence. We co-create the significance by allowing our awareness to touch what's actually happening, even if what's happening is, well, disappointing or imperfect or not what we planned. The meaning isn't magically inherent in the heat, it's in the attention we bring, whatever the temperature.
Okay, but let me push back a little here. If the ideal is this radical acceptance of what is, how do we avoid just becoming complacent? If I just keep embracing the cold tea, the too late moment, doesn't that sort of endorse inertia? Like, oh, well, missed it again, that's okay. Doesn't it stop you trying for the hot tea next time?
That's a crucial question. And it guards against a shallow interpretation of acceptance. Deep participation isn't passive resignation. The monk, sitting with the cooling tea, isn't doing so because he dislikes heat or doesn't care. He's sitting because the act of sitting, of resisting that frantic urge to fix it or chase the ideal, that act itself is profoundly active. Complacency is really an absence of attention, just shrugging it off. Acceptance in this deeper sense is the highest form of attention. It's seeing reality clearly without adding that layer of mental struggle against it. When you fully accept the cup is cool, you are fully present to its coolness. And from that clarity, if you then choose to pour a fresh hot cup tomorrow, that action comes from genuine intention maybe, not from anxiety about missing out.
That distinction is key, isn't it? Action born from clarity versus action born from fear.
Exactly. Subtle but vital. The person drifting into inertia might say, it's cold, ah well, what's the point? The person practicing acceptance might say, it is cold, I see that, I feel it. Now, what does this coolness allow? What can I notice now that the steam perhaps obscured?
We probably all recognize that desk worker scenario. You make the tea, planning that perfect little break, but then life happens. The email alert, the urgent call, just getting lost in thought about something else entirely. You look up, maybe hours later, startled, and the tea is stone cold.
And that immediate sigh, ooh, missed it again. It's almost automatic. The impulse might be to just pour it down the sink. A failed experiment. It didn't deliver the promised feeling, so it's useless.
But then, sometimes, a shift can happen. Maybe it's not some big spiritual insight. Maybe it's just weariness, tired of chasing. And instead of dumping it, she just lifts the cup. Not planning to drink it, not judging it, just looking, meeting it.
And in that simple, non-judgmental meeting, that quiet moment of awareness touching reality, the ordinary thing can suddenly become, well, a kind of cordial. She might notice the light catching the color, feel the cool, solid weight of the ceramic, no expectation of heat. Maybe she brings it to her lips, not expecting satisfaction, just neutrally curious.
And the taste. It's not what you wanted, but it's completely real, isn't it? It's honest, unadorned. It speaks of the actual moment, the quiet truth of now, not the idealized moment she planned and missed.
And that is where this kind of insight often resides. Not in the perfectly timed, high-performance, steaming tea, but in the cooled tea of imperfect, maybe delayed, but finally arriving presence. It's a radical welcome to reality, just as it is, stripped of our demands and expectations.
You know, it reminds me of that classic Zen story, Master Zhaozu. A student comes asking for the deepest teaching, the ultimate truth of Buddhism, expecting something grand, cosmic.
Yes. And Zazu just brings him crashing back to Earth, back to the immediate. He asks the student very simply, "Have you eaten your rice gruel?" The student, probably a bit confused or frustrated, says yes. And the master's instruction, just then wash your bowl.
The shock of that.
Yeah.
And we often miss it. The master basically dismissed the student's whole quest for some big answer out there. He said, stop seeking, stop trying to get somewhere else, just attend to what's right in front of you.
Exactly. The student saw the gruel as just fuel, a step towards enlightenment. Zhao Zhe was pointing out, you think spirituality is about grand ideas, but it's right here, in washing the bowl, in the act itself. Don't use this moment just as a launching pad to get to some other, better moment.
So translating that to our cool tea, the modern koan becomes something like, did you drink your tea? No, it got cold, I got busy. Then taste it now and wash the cup.
And the instruction, taste it now, it's not a punishment, or a lesson in efficiency. It feels more like an invitation back from that story failure of being behind. It's like saying, okay, that happened, you were distracted, you're human, now meet this moment. It's a kind of forgiveness.
And maybe being late, in that sense, actually creates the condition needed to see clearly.
Yeah.
Because the pressure is off, right? You already failed according to the clock.
Yes. The performance anxiety dissolves. You miss the perfect shot, so now you're free to just look. The tea is cool, so maybe your expectations cool down too. And that cooling creates space, room to breathe, room to notice.
That idea of stopping, the abrupt halt to the usual way of thinking, that's central to koans, isn't it? Like the famous one, what is the sound of one hand clapping? The point isn't the answer.
No, the point is the rupture. The mind spins, trying to figure it out logically, rationally, and it just can't. It hits a wall. And in that moment of baffled silence, when the analyzing mind gives up, what's left? Just raw awareness, maybe. Pure attention, without the thinker trying to manage it.
And you're saying the cool tea can do that too, in its own quiet way.
I think it can. It stops your usual narrative cold. It's supposed to be hot, but it's cold. Full stop.
Yeah.
You can't really perform mindfulness with cold tea in quite the same aesthetically pleasing way as with a steaming cup, can you? It offers no immediate reward, no comforting warmth, no energy boost, no brownie points for being mindful. It just offers, well, a chance to be with what is without any agenda for what it should be doing for you. And that radical lack of agenda, maybe that's where real transformation happens, quietly.
Let's revisit the Potter analogy. The wheel spinning too fast.
Yeah.
The clay collapsing.
Yes. Stillness is an emptiness. It's essential for creation. The potter has to slow or stop the wheel, to center the clay, to let the form rise without being torn apart by sheer speed. We often fear that slowing down, don't we? Equate it with laziness or failure or wasting precious time.
Right, but the cool tea is like that moment the wheel slows right down. And in the Zen view, that stillness isn't passive at all. It's maybe the most active state, because it's where listening truly begins.
Exactly. You stop overlaying everything with your constant mental chatter, your judgments, your plans, and you start to actually hear the world. The hum of the fridge, a car outside, the subtle presence of the forgotten cup. The whole universe is whispering in that quietness.
It makes me think of that almost ironic story. The monk searching for enlightenment his whole life, meditating for years, fasting, traveling, seeking everywhere for the big revelation.
And as the story often goes, he fails. In all his grand efforts, he fails. Defeated, exhausted, he returns home. And someone, maybe just an old neighbor, offers him a very ordinary cup of tea. He drinks it. Not as a spiritual practice, not seeking anything, just out of politeness maybe, thirst, fatigue.
And right there, in that completely ordinary, unhyped sip, when he finally stops striving, that's when it happens. He wakes up.
Yes, and the awakening didn't come because the tea was magic. It came because, maybe for the first time in decades, he wasn't using the tea. He wasn't trying to leverage it to get somewhere else. He was just drinking tea.
So enlightenment or insight or whatever we call it, it doesn't necessarily arrive at the triumphant summit after the hard climb.
Often, it seems to arrive when you stop climbing, when you drop the heavy pack of expectations and just notice the feel of the ground under your feet. That cool tea, that apparent symbol of failure or missed opportunity, it's actually a profound teacher in disguise. It asks that ultimate question of acceptance. Can you be here now? Not when it's perfect, not when it's convenient, not when it matches your plan, but just when it's like this.
And if we can sit with that coolness without needing to fix it or rewind or judge ourselves, that acceptance itself becomes the real point. Presence isn't something you achieve and then possess, it's just something you stop running away from.
And the final liberating realization isn't necessarily, oh, I should have drunk it sooner, or even, the cold tea was perfect all along. The insight might be much simpler. There was never actually a problem here. The tea cooled, you were busy, life unfolded, and yet, here you are, still capable of noticing, still present. That capacity to notice, without judgment. That's not failure. That itself is grace.
So the focus shifts entirely, away from the pressure of right timing, towards maybe a kind of tenderness. Can you hold this present moment gently, even if it's not the one you ordered? Can you taste the cooled tea without constantly comparing it to the ghost of the hot tea?
The harder you chase that external ideal, that fantasy of perfection, the more fragmented and unsatisfying your experience often becomes. Which leads us to that final, perhaps beautiful, paradox. The more you stop trying to make the moment meaningful, the more meaning seems to naturally reveal itself.
It brings to mind that other famous koan: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. If the outward actions are the same, what's changed?
What's changed is the inner landscape, the absence of separation. Before, perhaps, the monk chopped wood hoping it was a path to enlightenment. The action was instrumental, a means to an end, filled with striving. After, he just chops wood. The act is complete in itself, whole. He no longer drinks the tea hoping it will make him centered, the drinking or the sitting with the cool cup. It's just what's happening and needs no justification.
Feels like the ultimate permission slip. To forgive ourselves for being human, for getting distracted. Presence isn't some exclusive club you get kicked out of if you miss the perfect moment. It's like home. And the door is always open. You're always welcome, even if you arrive late after the party seems over.
So now we can imagine setting the cup down. Whether it's empty now or still full and cool, setting it down without regret for the lost heat. But also without any special pride in some newfound insight. Just placing it down, and the silence that follows that small action, it isn't an empty, it holds everything. The quiet weight of now.
And the tea. It tastes exactly as it is. Not hot, not cold perhaps, just alive. Because you, the one paying attention, are alive to its simple reality.
Pause. What if the perfect moment wasn't the one you planned for at all?
Yeah.
What if it was simply the one you finally stopped resisting?